Good morning, everybody. In true African fashion, I'll start with some African protocols. Chairman, we always need to have a chairman and a leader. Chairman, David, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, absolute delight to be here. And I see there are no children, although sometimes I act like one when I'm with mine. It's my job today here for 10 minutes to really introduce you not just to Salama Fikira, Fikiria Usalama, which means peace of mind in Kiswahili, but really to take you through where I see it from my perspective. And I was trying to gain some reference points earlier on today when George Svarilis, on the pronunciation of your surname, was talking about CSR, and I fully support where he's coming from, particularly as we have our own CSR programs running. And we do it because we want to, and we do it because we want to have influence and because we can. I was also touched by Kuba Simanski's words earlier on in the day, and thank you very much. I can say your surname, I hope so. And in this slide, on the next slide, I'm going to ask all of you within the audience to identify 6 flags, but you can't do it publicly. You have to give it to me on a piece of paper or hand it to Wambui Kibicho, who's sat there with a hand up, who's my head of legal, and then you will be given a free bag of coffee, because I noticed there's Brazilian coffee in there, but of course I was born and brought up on a Kenyan coffee farm, so I have brought Kenyan coffee. There's a prize there for you for simply identifying 6 flags. We are a private maritime security company. We're also a private security company. We're not a private military company, notwithstanding my background. Margaret, I just wanted to make that correction distinctively. We are licensed to bear arms, and we are licensed to bear arms by a European country. We bear arms, and we do so routinely, and including today, we have people at sea armed on board vessels, protecting those vessels from the heinous activities of pirates in 3 regions of the world: in the Indian Ocean, in Nigeria and West Africa, and in Southeast Asia. We're operational in all of those areas. In the hundreds of thousands of man-hours that we have had our men aboard ships, our men have never once pulled the trigger in anger. Not once. Those weapons have only been test-fired on rangers and into targets in the sea, but never have they been brought to bear against pirates. Our job is not to do that. The job is to deter hostile intent and to deter hostile acts. And in doing so, we have continued to protect the seafarers that we have come to love and respect. I'm not sure which one of these works which way, but I'll try and make it this one. There are the 6 flags. Anyone in this room is entitled to write them down on a piece of paper, hand it in, get your free bag of coffee. The images on the right are really about us conducting our training where we're bringing on Africans. The top one is vessel identification, so that our men are better trained and understand vessel identification in all forms of dhows and all forms of commercial vessels, perhaps not the ones you are immediately expecting to see. And at the bottom, teaching all our guys actually how to conduct medical training and to do so properly. I won't labor on all of the words that are on there, but really just to say to you, we are present in all of those countries that you see on there and in a couple of others where we don't have full service officers. The ones you see there, we have full service officers. We have at least placement of individuals. Sorry. This is a thief, but he's also a father. He's also a seaman, and he was caught stealing in the yard and brought to bear, treated extremely badly, as you might imagine. He has rights. Police brutality is evident wheresoever you go. It took us some considerable time to placate the police. There are worse thieves in other areas, in bigger companies and in government departments, than the damage this individual might have done. Nonetheless, he was caught, and therefore he was dealt summarily, and eventually he was taken off. But at least we had been able to stop the people in the near area actually beating him to death and stoning him to death. And this image was taken in Mombasa. For those of you that have not seen, this is a prison for pirates in Puntland, Somalia. It was built with EU funding. It took a very long time for the funding to come through in order to put pirates in these buildings. And the process to get them there itself was highly complicated because of the legal issues surrounding piracy. What I have not got for you today are lots of images of pirates, or indeed of hostages, or anything else in that respect. But I can assure you that I have released over 100 hostages, and I can tell you for now, every single one of those hostages was not only grateful, but I have seen masters weep whilst holding me. I can tell you, it's incredibly moving. Whilst we have never fired a single weapon, we have been fired at a lot. And on one particular occasion, we had crews with an unarmed team in the Indian Ocean, one of the vessels that we were attacked on. And that vessel was hit with over 500 AK-47 rounds and 6 RPGs. And why do I bring that to bear? The men that were on that vessel were good men, and they protected that vessel, and it was not taken, despite being attacked for over 90 minutes. Our men were unprotected. In terms, they were unarmed, should I say. But they defended the vessel, and the vessel went on to do what its own normal business is, the freedom of the high seas. Had those men been taken, including the security consultants, their treatment would have been far worse than that of the crew, because they were on there to protect her. But the crew themselves would have been taken offshore to Somalia, where they'd have been treated very inhumanely. And you're very aware of this. And I'm not here just to lay bare the aspects of what happens from piracy. But being locked in a freezer and held on a meat cleaver for some hours is extremely debilitating. It's still a beautiful place, notwithstanding the fact that there is that prison there. We work closely with organizations that have deep credibility, such as UNODC, in order to understand how we can support them in their piracy transfer program. And some of you in this room may not know, but there are over 40 individuals still being held by pirates today in Somalia. Those individuals have been abandoned by their shipping companies, have been abandoned by their managers, and those individuals, most of them come from Southeast Asia, countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, and so forth. The Europeans have been repatriated, and the other nationalities have been repatriated, but a few remain. Migrants are not only colored or black. I am a migrant. I just happen to be a European one that went to Africa. I'm a second-generation Kenyan. So migrants will continue to go both ways. There's a large space in Somalia which is ungoverned. And I'm talking about Somalia because I don't have enough time to talk about Nigeria today as well, where of course we have great placement. It's an ungoverned space, and as long as it continues to be ungoverned, and as long as it continues to have fiefdoms in charge of it, those people will continue to launch from those points when they get opportunity to attack seafarers offshore. And that will continue. And I think if you understand one thing, you should understand this statement. When I was recently back in Somalia, I asked one of the men on the seashore, I said to him, "Are you done with piracy now? Will you go back and do it?" He said, "Piracy is in my blood." So it will continue. And we need greater mechanisms to support the individuals on shore and give them work so that they are able to engage in other activities and put down their guns and their skiffs. Some years ago, we had a team on board a particular vessel. That vessel was transporting WFP, World Food Program food, into Somalia. It was boarded by a stowaway. We were unaware. We boarded the vessel in Mombasa. The stowaway had already secreted himself aboard and came aboard with all the stevedores. Those of you who haven't seen the stevedores working out there, men dressed in shorts and trousers with no shirts on and no shoes. They put a sack over their head and they carry either sacks of grain on board all day until they change from black to white through the color of the dust which covers their skin. It's an incredibly moving human scene to see these casual laborers carrying that food on board the vessel. This man secreted himself into the vessel and came out at sea, a stowaway. His reception on board the vessel was extremely negative, and the crew of that vessel indeed attempted to throw him overboard. Were it not for the team that we had on board that vessel, they would have carried out murder at sea. But we prevented that. We didn't know the man from Adam. Ultimately, he thought he was going on a passage to Europe, or perhaps somewhere else, like America, or even some of the nicer parts of Asia or Australia, etc., or even Africa. Wasn't to be, and we let him down offshore in a place called Puntland, in Bosasa, and we put him ashore in Bosasa. And the team of 4 men had a whip round and put $400 in a hat and gave it to that seaman and put him ashore. What came of him, we have no idea. But he went ashore alive. So we work in all of those places, and I've only got a minute or so before I sum up. In the ungoverned waters, in the ungovernable waters, where humanitarian principles are something that are discussed in generally northern countries. And we look after the operational safety and security of those vessels, but more importantly of those men and women. I think the words there speak for themselves. I don't wish to dwell on them too much. We could all do more. I could do more. We're not the richest company, and I'm not the richest man by any measure. But I continually put my hand in my pocket to help seafarers and others who have been hurt on land where there are no police forces, or the police forces are ineffective, or where the military are unable to take that action. I can do that because I am no longer in the military, so I am permitted to go where I wish and where I want. So I can help in that small way. And so we do. And so like George at the front here, we cultivate a culture in our company and an ethos of doing what is right every time. I think if we all embrace that a little bit more, and this is not me telling you to do it, I'm asking you to do it, we'll be in a better place. Thank you very much.